So we're going to turn to angle measures, the intersecting chords, secants, and tangents. This is the last video of looking at different angle types in a circle. So when looking, there's the different types of intersections. It just depends what they give you. So if you look at the first one, it says when there's two chords or secants. So when you have a chord, the measure for this instance of angle 1 is equal to arc AB plus CD divided by 2. Or if you were looking at the measure of angle 2, it would be the measure of arc AC and BD divided by 2. Okay? So an example of that, if we look at example 1, number 23. They want to know what's the measure of angle 1. Well, the measure of angle 1 is going to be 153 plus 105 divided by 2. So the measure of angle 1 is equal to 153 plus 105 divided by 2. So in this case, the measure of angle 1 is equal to 129 degrees. So if we look at example number 24, they're asking to find the measure of arc KM. So if they want to know the measure of arc KM, our opposite arc, so that we can use the when there's two chords, would be that one. So they don't give us an angle, so it looks like what they did give us was 133. We'll have to solve for it. Well, that missing angle right there is a straight angle, so 180 minus 133 is going to be equal to 47. So this angle is 47 degrees. So if we set it up, the angle 47 is equal to 67, and we'll call this x, plus x divided by 2. So then when we solve it, you have to multiply both sides by 2. You get 94 is equal to 67 plus x. So then the measure of arc KM, when you solve for it, is equal to 27 degrees. So that's two examples of that guy. If we look at, we'll come back to number 25 after looking at the next example, when you have a secant or a tangent. Remember, your secant is a line that intersects twice, that's this line, and then your tangent is the one that intersects once on the outside. So when you look, you can find the measure of angle 1 by doing half of measure of the arc ABC, or you can find the measure in this instance of angle 2, either angle that's created by an intersection of a secant or a tangent of that arc. So it just depends. If you look, it's the arc with the arc with the angle on the same sides that match up. So let's look at 25. Looking at number 25, they ask us to find the measure of arc WX, which is this arc right here. So that means to do that, we need to know the measure of that angle. Well, once again, they didn't give it to us, but they told us with it being a straight angle that the pink one plus 138 is equal to 180. So that means that my angle that's missing is going to be 42 degrees. So the pink angle inside of there is 42 degrees. So then the measure of arc WX is equal to 2 times 42. And the reason it's 2, remember you're going from small to big. So it would have been 1/2, but we have to multiply both sides by 2. So the measure of WX is equal to 84 degrees. So as a little note, because I've noticed some of you are struggling, when you go from the angle to the arc, you're multiplying by 2. You're going from big to small. So does that mean you multiply or do you divide? Well, you're going to multiply. When you go from the arc to the angle, you're going from big to small, so you're going to be dividing. So let's look at when we have an exterior intersection and we have two secants. Well, if you're trying to find the measure of your angle, which is angle A, it's going to be your big arc minus the little arc divided by 2. So when looking at number 26, they want to know what's the angle of measure E. So here's my measure of angle E. That's what we're trying to find. It's going to be big arc minus the little arc. So it'll end up, we would do the measure of angle E is equal to 141 minus 25 divided by 2. This is the little arc from your notes, and then this one is the big arc. So when we do the math, measure of angle E is equal to 116 over 2. So then the measure of angle E is equal to 58 degrees. So I don't want you to get too confused, because as we go along, because our next one is secant and tangent, yes, the picture kind of changes, but the overall formula stays the same. So if you look at this one, to find the measure of angle A, it's still going to be the measure of your big arc, so in this case it's BD, minus the measure of your little arc, which in this case is BC. So when looking at number 27, if you look at number 27, that's a secant and a tangent. It's still going to be the big arc minus the little arc is equal to your angle. And in this case, they want us to solve for x, which that's okay. Either way, we're always just making an equation. So we would say that 4x plus 1 is equal to 219 minus 89 divided by 2. It's the same equation, and I'll go ahead and highlight for those of you who are still maybe a little confused. It's big arc minus your little arc. So far it's the same, whether you have two secants or a secant and a tangent. It's big arc minus the little arc. So when you go to solve for x, you plug that into your calculator, or do it in your head. 219 minus 89 divided by 2 is going to be 65. Subtract the 1, you get 4x is equal to 64, so you get that x is equal to 16. And all it asks you to do is to solve for x, so then you're done for that one. Looking at the last one. Well, now it looks like I have two tangents. So let's look at our equation. When you have two tangents, it tells us that the measure of the angle is still equal to the big arc, BDC, although now it is a big arc, minus the little arc, BC. All right, so when you go to plug them in, find the measure of angle Q, in this case, is equal to our big arc, which is PSR, minus the little arc, which is 107. So when you do it, it's asking you to find, you're missing the big one, the green one, so you would do 360 minus 107, which is equal to 253. So then you do 253 minus 107 divided by 2. You get that your measure of angle Q is equal to 73 degrees.